Hey everybody, this is Willie at newandlostcrafts.com, and I'm going to try to make this quick because this is going to be kind of a long video, I think, because there's a lot I want to explain. So with the starting materials, first of course you have a 5-gallon bucket. Make sure you get a food grade bucket, and you want a good solid lid with the gasket inside of it. Now, be careful about this. Don't skimp on your buckets. You know, the Home Depot buckets and whatnot, I'm not sure that they're food grade. The buckets themselves probably are, but the lids that you buy for them don't have a gasket in them typically. So look for that. I mean, you're really talking about a painter's type bucket, because once this thing is sealed, you want it to stay sealed, you know, for many years. Just a normal bucket. And then the next thing that we're going to use is, I love this product, it's the Clorox Anywhere hard surface cleaner. You can use regular bleach, a really weak bleach solution, and just paper towel and wipe the inside of the bucket out. This is basically that, but I'm going to spray the inside of the bucket. I'm not going to bore you with that part of it. Basically, I'm going to spray the inside of the bucket and the bottom side of the lid. Let it stand for a couple minutes, and then wipe it all dry with nice clean paper towel. And then I wanted to point out, in the end of the process, you won't see these for a while, but these are my oxygen absorbers, and we're going to use a 1-2 punch type method for storing food in these guys. And the first step is going to be, I'm going to show you how to set up a carbon dioxide pillow using dry ice on the bottom of the bucket, and that'll evacuate the majority of the oxygen from, you know, the grain and from the bucket in general. But these are an insurance policy, and these are great to have. They're relatively new as far as I am concerned, as far as home use. But this is a great way to store them. Another little video in a video. These come in a vacuum-packed container, obviously. What you can do is stick them in one of these ball jars with a good lid, and just take them out quickly and then reseal the lid, and they basically seal themselves. So we'll be checking those out a little bit more later, but for now I'm going to sign off for a few seconds and clean the inside of this bucket. What we're going to be storing here today is, I got a good deal on a 50-pound bag of wheat berries. It's a hard red winter wheat, and that's what we're going to be storing today. So I'll sign off, be right back. Alright, we're back, and at this point we have the bucket cleaned with the Clorox spray that I showed you earlier. And in this bag is the dry ice that I got from King Soopers. Check your supermarket for this stuff. I'll give you a peek inside of here. There's a lot of dry ice in there. I spent a grand total of about 70 cents on this amount. You could do 10 to 15 buckets with this amount of dry ice. They just frown upon me when I say I want an ounce of dry ice. So I always get a pound. Usually I do, 1, 2, or 3 buckets at a time. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to show you how to use the dry ice. I put a little chunk in the bottom of this bucket. That is probably enough. It's really small chunks of this stuff. You don't have to worry about it too much. Notice I'm wearing a protective glove. Don't touch this with your bare hands. It'll burn you and you'll be hating life. So always use gloves. Make sure you sterilize the gloves, because that's the whole point of this operation. And you can use the same Clorox Anywhere spray to do that, or whatever disinfectant of your choice. Just make sure you rinse it off really well if you use something else. That's kind of the beauty of the Clorox stuff. Alright, so seriously guys, 5-gallon bucket, 2 little chunks of dry ice in there. All I'm going to do is take a paper towel and I'm going to cover the bottom of the bucket. I'm sorry, I said guys and gals. And the only reason for this is that the dry ice will actually burn your food. So I'm covering the bottom, and what the dry ice is going to do is it sublimates, so it doesn't ever turn to a liquid. And so this whole bucket is going to fill with carbon dioxide and push all the oxygen out. And then our oxygen absorbers are just going to be extra insurance on top of that. So I have this all set up, no big hurry, but what I'm going to do next is go grab my bag of wheat berries, fill this guy up, and I'll film myself doing it. Alright, bye. Okay, so I switched positions, and I guess I just wanted to make something clear that the dry ice in there, and covered with the paper towel, we're going to leave that paper towel in there. It's not going to do any harm, and it really just provides a barrier between the dry ice, which is extremely cold, and whatever you're going to put in there. So I'm going to pour, I got a really good deal on some hard-lit winter wheat. So I'm going to fill this bucket up right over the top of the paper towel with the dry ice underneath. And I found with even, beans or whatever, wheat, all this dried stuff you want to preserve for a long time. If you buy a 50-pound bag, it's going to take you about 3 buckets. To house that. And you want to fill it up fairly full. Less oxygen room you have, the better. Alright, so now here's the key. You have that dry ice working on the bottom there, and what it's doing is it's sublimating the CO2, and it's going to continue to produce that. So what I'm going to do is take this back to the countertop where we were filming earlier, put the cover, just set it on top, let it sit, and where that dry ice is, I put it in the center on the bottom, and I'm just going to keep feeling how cold that spot is. Keep that cover on, and you want to treat this like it's full of water at this point. Carbon dioxide will actually pour out of a bucket because it's heavier than air, and we're going to let that finish its process, add a few oxygen absorbers, put the lid on, and crunch it down, and we'll be done. So let's bring it back to the countertop. Okay, so we moved the bucket back to the countertop. All of the food is in there, whatever you're doing. And the dry ice is doing its thing now. And so I'm not going to clamp this down yet. I'm just going to put it, kind of softly on the top. And then what I'm going to do is keep filling the bottom, and it's really apparent. The dry ice is cold, everybody. Once that stops being even hard to touch, we'll put a couple of O2 absorbers in, and clamp this thing down, label it, put it in the storage place, a dark place where rodents can't get to is ideal. And then you're set for a good, 10 years at least. I don't want to quote anything on my own site, but I'll say 10 years because I've experienced it. But just make sure you're doing things right, keeping things sanitary. And so this is going to have to sit for a couple hours while that dry ice pushes all the oxygen out of this 5-gallon bucket. And like I said, I keep saying this is an insurance policy. Well, I'll put 4 or 5 of these in there. We'll clamp it down and it'll be good for a long time. Okay, so it's been a few minutes. I just want to show you how I do this. I showed it last time, but it is really obvious once the dry ice has done its thing. Just don't tip this thing too much. Don't take the lid off because it'll pour out. But it's still really cold down there, so this is going to take, I don't know, an hour or so. It's been about 2 hours, and I'm filling the bottom. It's still a little bit chilly where the dry ice is, but it's basically done at this point. The lid is softly on, and what we're going to do is add some of these O2 absorbers. Now, keep in mind once you open this jar, they're going to start doing their thing. So we're going to do it fairly quickly. I think I'm going to put 5 in the top of this guy. These are little absorbers though. The link I'll put on the website will be more appropriate to the size of this container. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, insurance policy. Don't disturb it any more than you have to. Close this up immediately, because again, all those guys are going to do their thing and they'll actually seal themselves in this container. These are really cool. Alright, so we're done with that. I'm going to carefully move this over to where I can show you me sealing it, and then we'll be done. Alright. Okay, so we've done the dry ice to evacuate all of the oxygen, added the grain. Don't forget about the paper towel to cover the dry ice so you don't ruin any of your grain. And then we have the O2 absorbers on top. I moved this really carefully from the countertop. And by carefully, I mean just keep it level. And that's all there is to it, everybody. So now I'm just going to seal this lid down. And this is, I weigh 200 pounds. So hopefully I can do this with just my weight. But, lighter folks, you may need to get a rubber mallet out. I may need to. I doubt it. But just get that lid down there really solid. And alright. You're not going to open this by hand until you peel this thing back, and that's the way you want it. I'm going to write the date, what's in here, and put it in my storage location, and like I said earlier, you're good to go for 10 to 15 years at least. Alright, so with that, I'm going to close off. This is Willie at newandlostcrafts.com. For more videos like this, come visit the site, and hope you enjoyed. Thanks.